For those that are not familiar with Seesaw, Seesaw is a platform which is really great for students to be able to kind of demonstrate their thinking and their learning. It allows them to not only have student portfolios in a sense because they have each have a journal, but it also allows them to be able to record and draw on it and record audio and submit PDFs and things from their drive. So it does allow them to be able to express themselves and be able to express their thinking in a really powerful and easy way for students to do it. So it can work from K to 8. Seesaw is really easy to use for all ages. It's also something that we have that's free. Like the free teacher account really does allow you to do most of all of the powerful things in Seesaw, and it works on a multitude of devices. So whether they're on the iPad or any kind of tablet, they've got the Seesaw app. It works on Chromebooks. It works on a desktop as long as it has like a mic and a camera. They can also do it from the desktop, any other Android devices, and also on like a Kindle. So it's really versatile in the fact that it can be used on a multitude of devices. So in order to access Seesaw itself, and if you're working on like a desktop, you'd be going to app.seesaw.me, and that's going to bring you to this kind of login screen. And it's really just clicking on, this is the same one that students would use as well. And in our case, we just select I'm a teacher, and it has the Google sign-in button. So you would just use the Google sign-in button to be able to sign into Seesaw. Once you do that, it's going to bring you to this Seesaw dashboard, right? And
we have.
Whoops, can we just mute ourselves, please? Thank you. The Seesaw dashboard is where everything is going to be happening. If you are getting the network firewall thing for Seesaw, you just have to do it again or refresh it. Sometimes it happens, but it will eventually go through. Sometimes our firewall wants to block Seesaw. You'll get that pink banner at the top, but you just have to refresh it and eventually it goes through. The dashboard itself, up at the corner, is where you will access like your classes. So if you have more than one class, you just click there, and that's how you can switch from classes. This is the way it looks like for everybody, even from like the student's view, is that this is their main dashboard. The green button is where you'll be able to add assignments and create assignments for your students. You have here your menu of options for your class, where you have the journal, if they're going to be using the journal part, or the activities, which is the actual assignments that you create. And then if you access Seesaw for families, because it does have the ability to share Seesaw with families, and then parents can see their students' work, it only allows them to view their own students' work. You will then be able to communicate with families that way if you decide to do that. And then skills is if you decide to add skills that you want your students to try and accomplish, you can also keep track of them there. And then the little wrench at the top is where you can actually customize settings for that particular class. So this is just a kind of basic overview of what the dashboard looks like. And we're going to go through each of these little things individually, so you can see everything that is within the Seesaw platform. So when you click on the corner where you can see yourself, that's how you would sign out of a device. And so for students that are using shared devices, or when students are on iPads, in order to sign out, they need to make sure that they're clicking up at the top right corner to be able to get to that sign out menu to sign out of the app. And this is where you'll be able to see the list of all of your different apps. And you can just click on the plus sign whenever you want to create a new class. It's just clicking at the plus sign at the top, and then that's how you can create a new class for your Seesaw. This is also where you can access your account settings. And if there's anything that you need to change with your account settings, you'll be able to access it from the main settings button by clicking on that corner screen. When you create a new class, you'll see that you have the option of importing from the classroom, which definitely is the way that I suggest that you create. Can we please make sure that we're muted? Thank you.
Melissa, could I ask a quick question?
Yes.
So my classes have the same name from year to year. Is there a way to delete the students out of a class or delete a class from previous years so it's not confusing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you go into your class itself, you go to the wrench, you can delete your classes. So any old classes that you have, you can just delete from Seesaw and you can just import your new ones before you start. So when you click on import from Google Classroom, you'll see that it's then going to give you a list of all of the classes that you have in Google Classroom, and you can just select all of the different classes that you want to create a Seesaw class for. And then you just click on import classes, and then all of those classes will be automatically imported. And what that does is that then students are already imported into your class. So when the student goes in to log into Seesaw, they can just go to the app.seesaw.me, they click on I'm a student, then they click on their Google account. When they do that and sign in with the Google, they're already in your class and they don't have to worry about putting in codes or trying to join your class because they're already automatically in there. So it makes things a lot easier that way. So within the class, right, for the little wrench in the corner of the class, that's going to allow you to customize settings for that class itself. And when you click on that, it's going to then show you, you can see a list of all of your students, but this is also where you can change the class name. If I wanted to change the class name, or you can set your grade level. Manage teachers. The free account of Seesaw will let you add a co-teacher. If you wanted to add multiple teachers to your account, though, that's part of the paid version. So under the free plan, you can add one other co-teacher to your class. If you want to change your class theme, like the color, so you can customize your class themes in that way. And then your student sign-in mode, since you imported through Google Classroom, it's by default going to be Google. You can then click on manage students, and that's where you can add or delete, remove students from your class if you needed to. And then here in the class settings, you can toggle on or off what other types of settings that you want for your class. So if you want to have students be able to view each other's work when you've allowed them to post, then you can turn that on or off. And then you should, whoops, let me go back. Require approval for items. So by default, Seesaw requires that teachers approve every time students submit work. You need to approve it before it actually like posts on the Seesaw stream. So you can toggle that on or off if you want things to require approval, or if you just want the students to submit and it automatically goes on to Seesaw itself. And enabling sample student, right? That's for the teachers to use. So if they want to be able to model what it would look like from the student perspective, they have that sample student that teachers can use to be able to model. And you can turn that on or off, just like if you want to enable family access and so far. So that wrench in the corner is what's going to allow you to customize your Seesaw settings for your particular classes. So you're going to have to do that for each of your different classes, depending on what you want your settings to be. So when we're looking at our dashboard, right, we have two options for what our students can do to work on. They can work on the journal, which is pretty much like your portfolio, right? It's going to show you students' work. So students can just, from their journal, they can click on that green add button and they can on their own submit work, whether they're submitting written work or if they're submitting a video or it's an audio or an image, but they have the ability in their journal to kind of submit whatever work they need to do. Activities then are the specific assignments that teachers create for the students to complete, right? So these are really the two things that you would be most likely to be working with within Seesaw, is either the journal or the activities, or both, depending on how in depth you're going to go into using Seesaw. So from the teacher's perspective, when you click on that green button, you can assign an activity, which is when you're going to go ahead and create it, or send an announcement, which is then just like our classroom stream, you announce something to the class. This is also something that if you sign up for families, families will be able to receive these announcements that you post onto Seesaw. And then when you click on activities over on your dashboard, you'll see activities that you've already assigned to your class. You can see activities that are scheduled to post, and then those that have been archived. And you can always go back into your archive to look at past activities if you want to be able to use them. So when I click on assign activity and I want to create a new activity, this is the window that's going to show up. And it's going to, of course, first have me put in an activity name. So whatever it is that I want to title my activity. And then this is where I would type up my instructions for what my students need to do. So your instructions for your students can be in a lot of different types of mediums. You can type them out. I always suggest to type out your instructions in kind of like a bullet or numbered list. It's a lot easier for students to follow, to know all the different steps that they need to do. But it also allows you to add instructions to record voice instructions. So if I wanted to record audio instructions for my students, I could do that. Just like I have the option of adding other multimedia instructions. So if I wanted to upload a video or link a YouTube video as my instructions, or show examples that I'm linking some kind of image or PDF or a doc, I can do all of that from my Seesaw instructions. I can add a multitude of different examples and things that my students can access to be able to complete their activity. As I continue creating my activity, I also have an option for adding a template. So what the template does is that when the students opens up the activity, the template is already there for the students to work on. So they just have to either complete it, like work on it, or if they need to record over it or whatever it might be, but you've already provided them the actual example that they're going to be doing. So they're not doing anything from scratch. You're giving them that template that the students would then be able to work on those. And you can upload those templates. You have the ability to upload photos. It can be drawings, and you can upload more than one template as well when you're creating the activity. So once you've completed all of that and your activity is ready to assign, I can assign my activity to multiple classes if I wanted to do it to more than one class. So I am able to assign it to multiple activities, and I can also post it. Then when I do that, I can assign it and it automatically assigns to class, or I can schedule it for later. The scheduling feature, I believe, and this is one of the things I was going to check and I forgot to double check, but I believe the scheduling feature may be a paid option. So I don't remember right off the top of my head if the scheduling feature is going to be available in the free version. So that's just a heads up there. So from a student's perspective and from your perspective as well, when you're creating activities and what you can do with them, these are the different tools that students have available to them, right? These are their activity options. Either if they're completing a template or if they're submitting their own work, these are all of the different options that students have in order to submit work. So they can use the camera and take pictures of something. The drawing activity, which we'll go into more, which is what allows you then to draw on something. If they're explaining it, it allows them to record while they're drawing, to add text. So it's really the one that kind of has like a multitude of different things they can do on it. They can record or upload a video, or can upload photos. So if they have something from within their drive or their computer that they want to upload, they can do that. Notes is something if they want to type something out, and then if they need to add a link to something else, if they're linking it to a YouTube video or linking it to an outside website, or they're linking it just directly to some kind of shared presentation, they could do that as well. So both the teachers, everything that you see as a teacher when you're creating activities, these are all of the same options that your students also have to be able to create their own work and submit their work to you. So from a student perspective, which is I wanted to show you what it looks like from a student view, right? The student is going to go to the same thing, if app.seesaw.me, if they're on a Chromebook or if they're on a computer, if they're on any kind of tablet, then they would have the Seesaw app downloaded, and they would just open up the Seesaw app, and they would then click on I'm a student. and then go with their sign in with Google option to log into their Seesaw accounts. All right, granted that all of the teachers, if they created their classes by importing Classroom, then they would sign in with Google, and that would automatically then give them access to all of the classes that they've been imported to. So once they do that and they get to their dashboard, right, the student is going to then, just like our view, is going to have that corner view up at the top. So that's how they would have to access if they had more than one class. They would have to click up in that corner to be able to click on to whichever class they needed to go into, right? And it tells them how many classes they are. So when you're enrolled in classes, it lets you up know in the corner like how many classes you're enrolled in. And so just by clicking in the corner, they can just click back and forth into whatever class they need to go. And then this is what they would see from their dashboard. They will open up automatically to their journal. So if they have never, like if they don't use their journal, it's going to be blank. But if they were using their journal and wanted to add something, a post to their journal, then they could just click on the green button that says add something, and they can go ahead and add whatever post to their journal they needed to do from that choice of options that we saw, whether it's a drawing or a video or notes, whatever it might be. Then in the activity section, they see a little number 2. So it lets the students know, it alerts them that there's activities pending for the students to have to complete. So if they click on activities, then they'll be able to access whatever the activity has been assigned by their teacher. And so when they click on activities, they'll see that they have activities to do. It'll then show them what activities they have to do. And if they've done an activity, it'll also then list, if they click on it, it'll show them what they've already completed. So from their view, then they'll see that here's the assignment. So they'll see the title. It'll then show them the directions and whatever directions it might be. And they can then click on the green to add a response. So it says waiting for a response is knowing that they need to complete that. They click on the green button to add their response to their assignment. So this one in particular that I have here is one that has a template, right? So this one gives the preview of what the template is that the students are going to be working on. So once the student clicks on add response, this is what they'll view. Like, because there's a template, it's automatically going to open up in this drawing mode so that the students then are able to work directly onto the template itself. And when they're here, then they have access to all of these different types of tools. So depending on whatever the teacher instructions were, right, then the student would then, whether they have to add text or if they're recording while they explain something on that template, whatever it might be, depending on the teacher's directions, these are the tools that the students just need to click on and they can just go ahead and access. So up at the top, students can always click on here to view instructions. So they can always go in here to just quickly view what the instructions are from their teacher. And then they can add text to the template. They can record their audio while they're drawing. So this is almost like a kind of screencast kind of way that they're recording their audio and explaining as they're working on whatever the template is. This allows them to take pictures or record a video or upload a file if they needed to. The 3 little dots here, when they click on it, it opens up a menu where they can add shapes. If they added more backgrounds, if they had to add links. And then the bottom here is to add a caption. So for example, if they did upload a picture on their own, they could add a quick little caption to that picture explaining what it is. And then here they're able to change the text colors. And along the bottom are all the drawing tools. So if they were going to draw directly on there, there's a pencil or a pen mode. This is the eraser. So everything is really just built into this one window where the students can then use to be able to do their work. Whenever they're done with whatever it is that they're doing in their assignment, up in the top right corner, there's a little green check. So that's what the student would click on when they have completed their work. Once they do that, if they've recorded something, they're going to have an ability to be able to play back what they saw. So when they first click on the check, it's going to show them what they recorded and they could play it back and check to make sure that they could hear themselves and to make sure everything's okay. If it's not, then they can always just delete that, and they can just restart again. So once they're satisfied with what their work is and they're ready to submit, they would just click on the green check. They would click on it twice, really, if they recorded on it, because once they're okay with their playback, they'll click on the green check again. And then the next window that'll show up is going to be the window with like a list of student names. And so they just have to find their name on the list, click on it, and then click on the green check. And then that's going to submit their assignment to their teacher. Because by default, all posts go for approval, right? It's then going to show up like this from the student view on the dashboard. It's going to say waiting for teacher approval. So the student know that it's been submitted to Seesaw, that's there. They're just waiting for their teacher to approve it for it to post directly onto Seesaw. From a teacher's perspective, to review student work, when we log back into our dashboard and take a look at everything, then we'll see, if we click on activities that have been assigned, we'll see how many responses are there. So we can see the responses. If we've approved them, it'll go here. It'll show us how many responses are waiting for approval that we need to go over. And it'll also show us how many we have that have not responded yet. And then just by clicking on that particular assignment, we'll be able to view the student's work and to be able to respond to that. These three little buttons at the bottom when we're viewing student work will allow us to, if we want to comment directly onto the student work, we can leave comments from Seesaw itself as well on that student assignment. Now, when you're creating an activity, they also have the Seesaw activity library. And when you first click on activities, it's always going to show up first as the activity library. So there's already created Seesaw assignments for a large number of grade levels that you can browse through and see what's already out there. So you are able to access the Seesaw activity library. And if you want to use any of them, you would just be able to click on it, and then you'll be able to use that activity within your class. So there are a lot of different pre-made Seesaw activities for all grade levels and a lot of different types of subject matter. The library, you can filter it by grades, you can filter it by subject, and you can just add those and it'll go to your library. And whenever you want to access them, you just go to the activity library, go to my library, and you'll be able to access any of those activities that you have saved for yourself and added to your library. If you want to connect families with Seesaw, then families would use the app. That's the family app for Seesaw, or they can also do it online through app.seesaw.me. They're only going to see their own child's work. And the text, then they could also translate text into a lot of different languages. So if you do send announcements over Seesaw, it does allow them to be able to translate those messages to different types of languages within the family settings. They can have them translate it into whatever language they want. For families, they just have to, you can either print out or send home paper invites, or there's like an email that can be sent home that shows them how to log in and connect with their class. They can see announcements. You can also have private messages. So if you just want to message one particular parent of a student, you can through Seesaw as well. And you're also able to send things like newsletters or other types of forms. Seesaw is another way that you're able to connect through families that way. It's just another medium that allows you to create to family, connect to families if you want to use that. One thing about Seesaw, especially with the creating the activities, is like all of the things that we've talked about so far, especially when we've talked about things like slides and Google Drawings and all of the different things that we've used to kind of create activities for them. Those are things that you can create on those and also submit into Seesaw and have them work on it. So a lot of those things that we've already been talking about, all of those things can be converted into Seesaw activities, right? Depending on what you want your students to do. So we've had them kind of do drag and drop stuff within slides and drawing, but we can also have that and put that into Seesaw and have them kind of record that drag and drop and explanation. And that's just another way for students to be able to kind of show us what they're thinking, especially those if they're mobile. It's one way that they can do it. It's asynchronous for them that they could do it, but it's also, we're also making sure that their understanding because they're recording themselves, explaining it and showing it to us. So it's a way for us to be able to verify that they are clear on what they're doing, especially with those students that are not visible to us. And we want to make sure that things are being understood by our students in that sense. So questions so far on questions on Seesaw or anything that I want to go over, I can go back in and go over or show you something.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. So I had a question with regards to the quality of the video. I did notice in previous years, the students, like if let's say their video submissions were lengthy, it took quite a while for it to upload. And then something I discovered was in the settings, the quality of the video. So I guess if you pick a higher quality, it's a slower upload. What are your thoughts on that? Should we go for the medium? I mean, or should just tell kids?
So yeah, definitely depending on the quality of your video, it's going to take longer than others. And if you're depending on if like they're at home or if they're like on our network, which if they have a multitude of people submitting at the same times, that also can cut into the time.
Right.
So I guess it goes down to like what you need to see on the video. Will determine your quality. If you want to be able to really like see things that they're doing and be able to decipher exactly what they're doing in detail, then you're gonna need at least a medium type of quality video or higher to see that. If you're really focusing on hearing them and their audio and just hearing their explanation as they walk through it and not necessarily what is all going on the screen doesn't need to be that exact or like large enough that you can decipher what it is, then it doesn't need to be like a super high quality video. I definitely wouldn't go lower than the medium one, like, you know, just to still be able to be viewable. But yeah, it's definitely going to depend on the students. If they're at home, it'll go faster because they're on their home network and it's just that. It's the problem is always like when they would do it at school, if they were all doing it and all submitting
all at the same time,
that would lag. So right now the network is a little bit better since we have kind of like everybody on at the same time. So they're kind of working on expanding that. But it doesn't have to be like super HD high quality video. I don't think that's really necessary.
All right. And one other question I had about the folders. What, you know, when I was using it, when we were doing our balloon race car project, I would create folders for every submission. I would be like, okay, I would name it. Is there any other use that you feel that folders are useful for? Other than just grouping? Because I used it only because the news feed, I guess the stream, there would be like so many assignments and then it would be easier to just like shuffle them in folders and kind of minimize the screen.
Yeah, I mean, it's depending on, it would be like depending on how extensive you're using your activities in Seesaw. Yeah, the folders are pretty much there just to be able to kind of organize stuff. Okay. So like just to keep things grouped together with things that are related. So depending on how extensive you're going to use Seesaw and how many activities you're creating, then definitely I would suggest using the folders in that sense, just to keep things grouped together as to what belongs with what. Because yeah, just like any stream, just like what would happen to your classroom, if you keep posting, like any stream would be then bombarded with all of the different types of activities. And then with the submissions, if you allow the kids to see each other, so you have all the submissions going in, and it can get pretty bulky.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so it's pretty easy. It's the good thing about Seesaw is that it's really simple, especially from younger learners, and it can be used all the way up to our middle school grades. So it's one of those apps that can lend itself to be used by any of those grade levels. So pretty much if there are no more questions on Seesaw, I have the resources on the Google Classroom. There are some Seesaw resources that are there that you can kind of take a look at what some other types of activities that have been done for different types of grade levels. So there's different types of blogs and other resources that are there talking about how to use Seesaw with different types of learners. So you can definitely take a look at that. I also added the Seesaw YouTube channel, which has a number of different short videos for different particular things in Seesaw. If you need to go back and do a recap on anything in particular, those are broken down into it. And then also the direct link to the activity library that has those pre-made lessons. And so, yeah, there's different types of posts that are there for different types of ideas in using Seesaw from kindergarten all the way to 8th grade. So those are also something that you can kind of look through to see if you find any ideas there of what you can do with that. Thursday, we'll have a chance to go in and work with Seesaw more hands-on and take a look at how it would work from your end and different types of devices. And other than that, if there's no more questions, that is going to wrap us up then today. There's no more questions on how this works, then we're...
Miss Cherini,
Yes, Chris.
I had a question not about Seesaw, but about Flipgrid. I embedded a video for an assignment into the Flipgrid, but when the students clicked on it, it told them that they didn't have permission to watch it.
Is
So
it a YouTube video?
Yes.
Did you grant permission for the YouTube video?
It's a screen. No, it wasn't a screencast. Sorry. Yeah, they did have permission because it's on my approved school YouTube channel.
It's your own video?
No, it's a screencast. But I uploaded it to YouTube.
Okay, but I'm saying it's like your screencast.
Yeah.
Okay, and you uploaded it to YouTube on your account.
My school account, yeah.
So I would have to see the exact message to see what the window would look like, to see what it is that it might be going into that they don't have access to.
Okay.
But yeah, it doesn't seem like it's a Flipgrid thing. I just need to see if there's a YouTube issue happening there.
Thank you.
I did have a quick question
Yeah.
about Seesaw. It's not just, I'm just looking at what's in the library for world language stuff, and it seems like it's all like editing templates. It's not all just that, right? Everything I pull up is the same.
It's not all templates. I mean, because the pre-made activities are usually going to have templates already done because they're going to have templates for you. But you don't have to use a template for your activity itself.
Okay.
Okay. So any other final questions? If not, then we are gonna leave it here at that, and Thursday we'll work on that. Next week is gonna be the HyperDocs week. For next week, it's gonna be hands-on, because the best way to learn HyperDocs is to actually do HyperDocs to really understand it. So for next week on Tuesday, you are going to need to be on a device that would allow you to work on things, because Tuesday is definitely going to be a hands-on kind of activity Tuesday for the HyperDoc one. And then the week after that is going to be our choice week, and that's going to be our final week already. And so we'll also go over the assignment, the final follow-up assignment, and just make sure that we all know how to get to our evals and the My Learning Plan. So we'll kind of walk through all of that to make sure we're all clear on that too. But other than that will wrap us up for this afternoon. Have a great evening, everyone.